So my name is Rachel Brook and I'm from Jim's Conveyancing, Mornington. So I joined Jim's Conveyancing because I had a friend from law school who also joined Jim's Conveyancing, and he told me how well he was doing. And like anyone that hears about a good opportunity to jump on, I invested in it, invested in myself at a young age, and understood that I slowly wanted to build up a business over time, particularly in real estate, because that was always a passion of mine. I spent some time in finance, doing some mortgage brokering for a little bit, figured out that numbers weren't really my thing, and was in law school and decided that I really wanted to stick with my passion for real estate, but also to combine that with my subject matter expertise in law. And naturally, I just put a big brand like the Jim's Group and my passion together, and then we came together with Jim's Conveyancing, really. We provide a whole range of services which are quite generic of what any conveyancer can provide. But arguably, we provide a more in-depth service that generally your little independent conveyancers can't provide, because we've got such a large network of lawyers that are working with us in our team. So we provide services in residential purchases and sales, commercial purchases and sales, and related party transfers and subdivisions, and your general sort of property development. The difference is that I think it's really important to go with a conveyancer that has a really good brand. Generally, when you're buying or selling property, they're going to be the largest transactions that you're ever going to commit to in your life. So go with a good conveyancer, and that's the reason why you should go with Jim's Conveyancing, because we have such a large network of lawyers. No matter the conveyancer or the lawyer, there's always going to be those little situations that might arise that you might not have learnt about in law school or in your diploma of conveyancing. And having that large network of lawyers to bounce back with as well, and being a part of a larger team with all sorts of different backgrounds, those little things that do come up, really, you have those people to bounce back off, and we can resolve a lot of those sort of very rare situations that do come up in property law, and hopefully provide those sort of resolutions to those problems that arise. The average week, so I do a lot of meetings with my mortgage brokers, so I came in having a good network. My week generally looks like I love starting my day at 10 a.m, really. That's the truth, and that's one of the benefits of being self-employed. So when I start my day, really, I'm going through my files, I'm touching base with my clients on a regular basis, keeping notes of those key dates in those contracts, so such as your finance approval dates, building inspection dates, through to keeping track of settlements, and regularly communicating with my brokers, the banks, to ensure that we get a smooth settlement to occur. There are a lot of mistakes that people do make in conveyancing. Simple things such as not keeping track of those dates in those contracts. And it's really important to be with a good conveyancer to keep track of those dates in the contracts, because they have such huge consequences. So there's two different terms that I'd really like to talk about. One being a conditional contract, and another one being an unconditional. And a bad conveyancer, if they're not keeping up to date with those dates in those contracts and not requesting for written extensions on those dates, then it might go from what is a conditional contract, which might be subject to your finance or your building inspection. Something might come up, your finance might not get approved, or a building inspection might identify a major defect. And a bad conveyancer, if they're not keeping track of those dates, you might fall what's into a conditional contract, and then you're bound by it, really, due to a simple error made by a conveyancer. There's quite a few stories, really. So a very common one, which is actually an inquiry that I have got a lot from first home buyers, is that a lot of first home buyers, and not to put a bad sort of light on real estate agents, but a lot of them that aren't really as educated with the contracts, like any reasonable person, really, but signing before they actually engage a conveyancer to go through the contracts. So a good example, which is actually an inquiry that I've received a few times, is people signing a contract after an auction's passed in. So there's a huge sort of difference between private sales and also auction contracts. Private sales, they can be conditional, and you can terminate them, what's referred to when you first sign a contract via a private sale. You get a 3-day cooling off period, so you can terminate it in that time. But if you sign in an auction contract, and even there's a huge sort of misunderstanding, is that 3 days before or 3 days after an auction is held, it's still considered an auction contract. And there's a real sort of misunderstanding where if an auction's passed in, right, that it might be considered a private sale, which it's not really. And that's a common trap. And I've had it before, particularly with first home buyers, or any sort of buyers really, where they'll call me up and try to terminate those contracts. I've just signed a contract that's been for an auction that's just been passed in. They think that it's signing a contract via a private sale, but it's actually an auction contract and they're bound by it, really. So that's the sort of the little traps, really. And that's why it's very, very important for you to engage a conveyancer before you sign these contracts, because it's not like, signing up to Netflix really, where you can cancel your subscription. You're bound by these contracts really. So get a good conveyancer and get them to have a look through these contracts for you. They simply need to call 131 546, or they can go to the GM's Property Conveyancing website.